Shaina Low. She's a communication advisor at the Norwegian Refugee Council. She joins us now live from occupied East Jerusalem. Thank you so much for your time. So the WFP says it's not taken its decision lightly to pause food deliveries to the north of the Gaza Strip. As a humanitarian organisation yourself, who has worked in Gaza, can you understand why they've come to this decision?
You know, it's a really tough decision for all of us in terms of determining where and when we're going to be able to operate. But the conditions right now on the ground for humanitarians are simply unacceptable. In any other context, humanitarians would be pulling out at this point because it is simply so dangerous and there are no guarantees of the safety of humanitarian staff, neither because of Israeli targeting of convoys, Israeli targeting of police who are there to protect aid convoys. And then, of course, due to the desperation, because of the lack of aid that's getting in, there's just been a deterioration of civil order in Gaza that's led to the charging and looting of aid convoys as they're trying to make their way. I'm sure the WFP did not take this decision lightly, but but they also have a duty of care to their staff and to the people seeking out aid, not to be putting them in dangerous positions.
Right, of course. Spell it out for us a little bit more, the challenges that humanitarian organisations like yourself face when you turn up with a truck full of aid or several trucks full of aid and want to get into Gaza. What exactly is going wrong?
Well, first of all, there are all sorts of logistical hurdles still in terms of getting aid into Gaza, including arbitrary, capricious, and extremely intensive screenings that the Israelis are requiring for any aid that's entering Gaza. On top of that, we've seen Israeli protesters blocking the delivery of aid. Now, the UN, which is handling all deliveries from Rafah from Rafah crossing into Gaza, they were being accompanied by Palestinian police officers, but the repeated targeting of police officers accompanying aid convoys has led to the police no longer providing that assistance. That means that these truck drivers and convoys are unprotected, and that people desperate for aid are charging trucks, in some cases even beating the truck drivers and damaging the vehicles. This is the level of desperation just even in Rafah, let alone in northern Gaza, where people have been deprived, where only in the first month and a half of the year, out of 77 planned convoys, the UN and other NGOs were only able to fully or partially facilitate 15 of those planned missions because of lack of coordination or flat-out denials by the Israelis.
You mentioned those extraordinary scenes that we saw earlier this week where a convoy of trucks were met by hundreds of those hungry, desperate Palestinians. But then the Israeli military started firing on them and we had several people wounded. Did it have to come to that? I mean, could it have been avoided?
You know, I really don't understand why the Israeli military was shooting at people, desperate people seeking aid. I can't imagine that any aid workers would want people who are desperate and on the brink of starvation to be shot while seeking out aid. Of course, one of the things that we need in order for us to be able to deliver aid safely is a ceasefire and guarantees of access to all parts of Gaza where aid workers and those seeking out aid will be guaranteed of their safety. In terms of the conditions of those attempted distributions earlier this week, it's just simply unacceptable.
What is your understanding of the food security situation in Gaza now, particularly in the north? I mean, how big a blow is it that we're seeing this suspension of food aid?
Well, as of now, 15.6% of children under the age of 2 in northern Gaza are facing acute starvation. These are unprecedented numbers. Prior to October 7th, less than 1% of children throughout Gaza were facing that level of starvation and malnutrition. So it's quite severe. In terms of northern Gaza, there's limited food getting in there. People are running out of even animal fodder to eat. I was speaking to one of my colleagues today who's in Rafah, who's in touch with folks up north, telling us about the skyrocketing prices, people paying hundreds of dollars for a few kilos of flour because the situation is so desperate. even in the south, where aid is more plentiful and some commercial goods are reaching the market, the cost of food has just skyrocketed, and even if people have money, they still often cannot afford to purchase enough food for themselves or their families.
Okay, Shaina Low, I really appreciate you talking to us, communication advisor at the Norwegian Refugee Council, speaking to us there from occupied East Jerusalem.